Hello, welcome to the 40k with me and Mr.
And Nikos isn't here anymore, mate. We can't do that.
Meow, meow, meow,
It's disgusting.
and me and Mr. Tom Layton. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. We are live. Well, I'm live from the T Sports Arena. Tom is live from the Tom Layton Arena, where he dominates and
The Tom Layton
commands
office.
the area.
Mate, I could see the state of the carpet around me. There's Dreadnought sprues, there's old keyboards that I definitely didn't smash. There's a big box of Tyranids, actually. I've definitely dominated the space.
Oh, good.
I can confirm
I
that.
like to hear that. Thanks, Ruscles, for resubscribing. And also thanks to Pershaw, Brian Sprillo, and also Drill Abbott joining us for the first time on the stream. We're live on Twitch, and if you're watching this back on YouTube or as a podcast, you can always join us live, and we encourage it because you can have your say on the hot issues of the day. Shout out to Chemex in the chat for subscribing. Love a bit of Chemex.
Yep.
Me and Tom today are going to be talking about our thoughts and feelings after the LGT 2021, the state of 40k, and maybe tackling a couple of tough subjects that came up.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, mate. I don't think this is going to be the most positive show, talking about a state of 40k.
Oh, Jesus.
Horrific.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. Scott B, thanks for resubscribing. Baron AJ, what were the hand dryers like? Oh, baby, I'll give you a rundown of the hand dryers. Pathetic. Most people don't know how we do.
I just didn't touch him, mate.
Yeah. Should we, Tom, before we dive straight into it, how are you? I assume how you are is going to be connected a lot to the weekend.
I'm feeling a lot better. There'll be a bit of a connection between the end of the behind the scenes, I guess, and here. But yeah, I'm actually feeling okay. It's been nice to be in my own bed for once, where I can control the temperature without having to subject myself to horrific music. Logan. It's been
We'll
nice.
talk about that in a moment. Big shout out to big shout out to everyone in the chat for joining us live, and Ruscles just for donating 100 bits to the show. Super lovely of him.
Babes.
Love it. Yes. So just want to say I thought Tom did great on the 40k stream. Thanks, Camelot96. Big love to you. The 40k is fine. Cryface. The hand dryers were appalling. Primark, were you there? And we didn't say hello? Gutted if that's the case. Rob would actually come out to the toilets and would have me blow his hands dry. Says it turned mad. None of that's true.
In the middle of a pandemic, he definitely
None of
would as
that's
well.
true.
None of that's
true.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm a big harasser. I probably would do it. Anyway.
You are.
Right.
I'll have you know that Rob burst in on me on the bathroom this weekend. It was very
that's
inappropriate.
Also true. So if you guys don't know, the LGT 2021, which is, as of to date, the largest European event that's ever occurred for 40k, right?
Singles event, definitely, I think. Unless there's something in Spain that we don't know about, because I'm always kind of
yes,
careful when I
they
talk
always
about
have
this,
massive
there's
events.
often stuff in Spain or France or Italy or Poland. Well, not necessarily Poland, but in these other countries, but they're not necessarily English-speaking first languages, right? So we don't really hear about them. But there are massive events that go out off in like Spain, France, and what have you, but we don't necessarily hear about. So I'm always a little bit cautious with that. But that said, we did almost have about 600 people playing singles, which was amazing. Regardless of whether or not it was the largest, it was still a good thing to see.
Yeah, yes, 100%. It was busy commentating and being important. Didn't want to disturb Primark. You should have come and said hello. 100%. Yeah, it was a large event anyway. Nearly 600 people. And just for everyone at home to work out to know how it worked, there were 3 rounds on the Saturday. There were 2 rounds on the Sunday, which cut into a top 4, and that top 4 played in a knockout semi-final final match. And I'm sure you guys already know the results of the final. Thanks, Gebs, for subscribing. I'm sure you've seen it on the YouTubes, but we'll talk more about that as well. Going into the event, Tom, you did a lot of the coverage. Going into the event, were you excited? Were you nervous, or were you happy? What was going on?
I wasn't nervous, but nor was I excited. I think it was always going to be like one of those who was just like, right, it's going to be hard work, and I know it is. And I also know that I'm working like my day job on either side of it. So I was kind of like going in like, right, I'm going to grind through this, and I'm going to do it as best I can. So I was confident in myself. I always am with these kinds of things. Like I don't really see like me going and being nervous about the cast isn't necessarily an issue. I was nervous over the weekend, but not about the cast. Which I'm sure we can get into later. But I was feeling up for it. Excited probably isn't the right word. But yeah, it's definitely
Fair enough. Yeah, like and I was kind of leaving you guys. So Nick Lamborn and Scrivo, as well as like special
Yeah,
guests over the weekend, were taking over the 40k stream.
yeah.
Uh,
Innes, Mikey, Neil were all on the broadcast. Was Piotr Tifus on
No,
the broadcast
Typhus
as well at
wasn't
one?
on at any point. Although he did offer, which was very nice of him as well. So yeah, Zach flew in not TOs, sorry, judges, Neil Kerr, Typhus, and someone else.
Um, I've forgotten what his
Yeah,
name is. I know the
yeah.
guy from WTC, but it's like these are like the top refs in
Yeah,
Europe
so
that you
so
can
he
get.
flew them all over as well. So those are the judges. Lots to break down about the event, I guess. Like we'll talk about 40k. We'll talk about maybe the state of the event as well, because I think there's something to talk about there.
Yeah.
Because lots of it's intertwined, right? The kind of the
Right.
jumping off
Yeah.
point for me, realistically, and maybe it's a conversation about the meta wholesale. You covered a lot of the games doing the live coverage, Tom. How did you feel going into the event? You were okay with the terrain. You thought the terrain was fine. So talk to me about the terrain and your thoughts on the terrain.
I thought the terrain did cause a certain meta.
Mm.
I think coming out of it's easy to go for because one of the things that I see a lot of people talking about right now is the terrain forced everyone into this kind of meta. Everyone just shot everyone off. I think for some builds, it doesn't make a massive difference. For example, if you go back and look at the stream we did, so you can go on twitch.tv/T-Sports Network, and you can watch specifically Manny's games, I think, from the Invitational. You could put another 4 or 5 massive L's on there, and I don't think it makes a scrap of difference to the result of not just the result in that Manny won or lost those games, but in the sense that he still flies over and shoots you with a bunch of planes. What it did do was it unlocked a certain number of other builds that do quite well onto those boards specifically. So a good example is Iron Hands. The Iron Hands build was specifically written for this event originally, specifically one that Alex was using. That then got left by the wayside after he used it at Hellstorm, and that was then changed to Deathwatch, which specifically worked for these boards. And then you had multiple other examples of those. So you had those appearing, but you also had a decrease in Drukhari. And when I was talking about who I thought could take up the event, I neglected to think about the terrain's impact on Drukhari. Because a lot of the terrain was line of sight blocking, but it wasn't specifically obscuring, right? And because I could get a Ravager out, but I know if I do, I'm going to drop stuff, so I'm just not going to ruin your ears with that. But you've got the little sails on the planes that come over the top. You can't hide those behind these walls. So it really limits how Drukhari want to play in this event. So it then becomes a question of what do you think is better, more Drukhari or more Marine gun lines? I personally think Drukhari is probably better. And so I do agree that the terrain created a meta that wasn't ideal, but I don't agree that it was horrible. Because a lot of people are saying the terrain was, but I don't think the alternative is that much better. I think it's better, but I don't think it's that much better.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. I think there's loads of subjects I'd like to tackle today. The train being one of them. The watchability of 40k, I think, is one of those really interesting things. I think
we tried.
Yeah,
we tried.
The watchability of 40k, I think, is definitely something. Having bad actors is also something I'd like to address as well. I think because that's come up, and I'd like to discuss some elements of that. The terrain for me seemed. So we'll jump straight to the final. I think we'll talk about that, and that's between Manny and
let's do it.
That was between Manny and Alex, and the conversation that
Alex and Malik.
Malik. Sorry, I've been speaking to him for like 2 days on Messenger, and Alex and Malik. Malik, by the way, a fantastic human being.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved meeting him.
I
haven't met him properly before.
His comment in the YouTube video as well. Top notch, really good.
Yeah, really like Malik.
I've got a big respect for
but Malik won the first turn to go first. The roll-off to go first.
He did.
He removed nearly 900 points of Alex's army in the first turn. And then most of Alex, not some other elements of Alex's army, like tech priests and tech engineers or whatever, were specifically designed to buff those dreadnoughts. So the loss of those dreadnoughts wasn't just the nearly.
It's the pivot of his list.
Yeah, it wasn't nearly 900 points.
that's kind of what happens when we talk about the meta as well, right? Because Alex is forced into this position where he has to build a list that smashes people. And when you have two lists that come together that have to smash people to get to this point, whoever goes first is just going to smash, right? So I don't think that the meta was massively impacted by the terrain as much as it was by the formatting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Fair.
Because you have, let's say you have an event where you don't necessarily need to smash, and it's just you got to win all your games. Then you might end up with a closer final where people's lists don't have to just one-shot the opponent off the board to get max points, right? And you actually have a contest. But because you had to build like that to get to the top four in the first place, you end up with that situation.
Yeah, so more lists were tailored because of the structure. More lists were tailored to do a horrific amount of damage and score hundreds. Because if you didn't score hundreds or close to 100, you weren't getting into that top cut.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I'll bow to you on that one because honestly, not sure. And I think that's fair and it makes loads of sense. I got to say though, like as a final. Ignoring the technical issues we had as a stream for the final. Pretty disappointing. Like that it was like
it's not like a close contest for the win, is it? Really?
Yeah. Like
I think
it's pretty rubbish, and that's because of neither player. That would because like I know you're saying that it was the format that created the meta and the terrain maybe helped to create that meta. But either way, the fact that like I would never my thoughts is if I can change the terrain at all to change that result. Like if someone's like if someone says to me you can put this much terrain on, you can put this much terrain on and no one will ever be able to take enough stuff off turn one, I would have not allowed that to happen. Do you know what I mean? I would put more terrain on the board.
Agreed. Yeah. I understand that. And if you add more terrain to the board, that helps. But then, okay, so what does that create? I think that you lose the Deathwatch Marines. I think that you take Drakari or Admech instead. And then in that situation, get Admech versus Admech or Admech versus Drakari. Right. I also think then if you're going to look at the Admech builds, you're probably going to take more planes. Which does it gets around that problem in the first place. So it's a mix of three things. It's a mix of the current books that we have and the power levels that we're at, specifically Admech, where they've just built Codex Gun and it has multiple ways of getting around terrain. You look at the formatting and you look at the terrain, right? Those are the three factors that you want to look at. The books we can't solve, the formatting we can solve, and I believe steps have already been taken by LGT to fix that for next year. The terrain we're waiting to see, I think. So yeah, I agree that you can do nothing negative by adding more terrain on those boards.
Which is some good feedback for the TOs as well, right? All over, and I feel, and to be fair to them, I feel like that's something they already maybe could have known going into the event. Ultimately, sure. I mean, so excitingly for the 40k community, it gives you like a big red flag to wave at Games Workshop. Be like, look at this.
You'll still
hellhole.
You'll still get a lovely meta watch saying, "Hey, Admech are fine because they didn't come like top whatever at RGT that was running the same weekend." Right?
Yeah, but like, I would argue that a game shouldn't be over in the first turn based on a dice roll. The fact that because the reason I'm trying to go through that mixture, like someone was saying in the chat, the perfect storm. It was just meatballs of format, rules, and terrain. It could be that the terrain is a factor, and it could be that the format was the factor. But I would say that arguably, like if you're having to orientate the exact format of your event so that for some reason someone doesn't bring this ludicrous Admech army, which I don't think it was even that ludicrous. It was ludicrous in its output. It felt ludicrous, yeah. But like my point is like if the game state is that poor, that some let's say the terrain was deficient by 25%. I'm not saying it was, but let's say, right? For the sake of argument, that takes you from like a balanced mid-tier game to you win on the first turn, which is ludicrous. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that's the situation. Me personally, I think the terrain was light, having built terrain for the venue. I also think the Games Workshop terrain is light, as the Goonhammer stats have pointed out. Their MetaWatch article that says that they were X percentage better was actually a lie, and they were X percentage worse. So Their terrain isn't good, and I was having a conversation today. You know Wallace, who does all the TSN overlays and stuff. We were having like a long conversation
Yes.
about terrain today,
Yeah.
and so that's why it's.
He's playing some 40k.
Yeah,
Actually,
he plays loads of
learning
he plays 40k, and he's also like very 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 switched on and smart. So when I was explaining it to him, he wanted to know every detail and every facet, and I was like,
yeah. Unfortunately, he plays Gene Stealer cult, so that doesn't matter. So,
yeah.
you know, unfortunately, he's doomed.
Nogo Matthew, hello, baby. Who is it you're trying to contact? That's the real question. So much terrain for the venue. Intern Matt, it's true. Message me back, Intern Matt. You don't fuck. But overall, I think the state of 40k. I think the final represents probably the state of 40k. Do you not think, Tom? Like, talk to me about the meta. Talk to me about AdMech in play. How many times did you cover it over the weekend? Because actually, in the Invitational, which happened on the Friday, there was also AdMech and Iron Hand several times, right?
I think of the 6 games we covered in the Invitational. 5 games we covered in the Invitational. 4 of them had AdMech in. Day 1 of the Open, I don't believe we covered AdMech at all. And then I only commentated 1 round on day 2 of the Open. And I believe that one had Ash Loftus versus Innes Wilson in it, which had AdMech. So that was 5 AdMech armies. Then we had the final couple of rounds of the Open, which had 3 AdMech games in, because you had Alex versus... No, it had 2, because you had Malik versus David, and then you had Malik versus Alex. So I think of the weekend, we got 7 AdMech games on stream. And we were trying to avoid them, okay?
Yeah.
We were trying to avoid them.
Which makes sense. So you better than anyone, you were witnessing them firsthand. Give me your on-the-ground feelings about AdMech.
I feel like, and I talked a little bit about this in the drive on way back when we were talking about Tau. I feel like the way that book is written is fundamentally unhealthy, because the entire book feels very much reliant upon its ability to shoot you, and that's the only thing it has, right? It doesn't really have any other play style other than shoot you as hard as it can. And what that means is either its numbers are too high, and it removes people from the table and creates an unfun experience because you don't get to make any decisions, or its numbers are too low and it's a useless army, and you don't really have any in-between space, right? I think the obvious evidence of this is that if you watch any of those AdMech games, I think between those 7 games, there was 1 massive player decision that influenced the game.
Yep.
I don't think there was any more than that. I felt like the games were supremely uninteractive. And I think that's a problem with 40k as it is at the minute, and it has been for a few months now. But specifically with this AdMech book, I felt like the players weren't playing, they were putting their armies down, and the armies were doing their thing based on first turn roll. And the one incident I'm talking about is when Manny misdeployed his Marshal and got sniped out by a Liberals.
Yep.
That was the one incident where player decision influenced the game outside of list creation.
Yeah.
So, and I feel sorry for AdMech players, to be honest, because imagine you love this faction and you want to put it on the board, and it's not even you playing, man. It's not even you playing, unless you take some like complete Garbo build, but it's just full of all the toys that you like the look of, or you take Forge World stuff, right? Which are another example of that. I feel like unless you do that, then your book is just feels bad, to be honest. And I think that really sucks, because I think specifically with AdMech, unlike Tau, there's a lot of room for creativity. You have this Forge World faction that can this constantly discovering new blueprints and making new war machines and all this kind of stuff. And it's got so much depth to it. I know you like AdMech as well and Dark Mechanicus, and you know how deep they can go with
Love
this.
the lore, baby. I'm super emotionally invested. Riser for days. All my Orange boys stand up in the chat. Lucius boys suck a dick. Yeah, I love a bit of anyway. But yeah, I'm a big Mechanicus stan, or Mechanicum. Your choice.
Yeah. And as 40 Hours of 40k is saying as well, Tau had the same thing. I mean, even in the Dawn of War games, it's just guns. But as I was talking about in the Convoy Back, I'd really like them to completely reinvent the like Kroot, Vespid, all the alien allies that Tau could have access to make a diverse book where you have different styles of play. So it's not just, oh, the number's high enough on X gun, right? And that's why I call it Codex Gun, because it's what it is. It doesn't really have any variety in it, and that's a real shame.
Just to shout out, Nikos in the chat has joined us tonight, which is nice.
Oh, yes.
Long-time co-host, first-time viewer. I've played lots of 40k and had loads of close games. The non-top table games we watch are fun. Please don't let Admech and Drukhari tip people's view of the rest of the game. I think that's a point I kind of wanted to get to, if I'm honest, right? Because I think Nick's point is right. I think there are more fringe cases of this being the situation than there is the wholesale conversation. Like Gitley's got an anecdotal story that he played Admech round 4, my opponent got to go first. In the end of the first turn, he asked if I wanted to carry on as he'd already won. It's not a great endorsement for the game. But I would genuinely say that game. So if you guys don't know what we're talking about, and I'll try and take us. I want to try and stay on like different topics as we go through the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I would say that the game has a problem, and I would say that the game is too killy. Specifically when the terrain is lower. And Tom, you pointed this out actually. Like the community has to make some genuine effort, and it's a big financial burden actually, to put that amount of terrain on a board for a game to reduce the effectiveness of that killiness for players. Because what you don't want a game that's over in turn 1. Not that it often is. But it sometimes can be, and I would argue what you're really like. If we were being like a community and asking ourselves what the right questions are, the question really should be sometimes the game's a little bit interactive. Yeah, that's the worst. Yeah, all the way to like how can we make it more. The game's great, but I think the conversation is more. Sometimes you don't get a turn up to most of the time the game's all right. Like that's the scale, and I would like to push the scale to the game's pretty all right to the game's fantastic. Yeah,
100%. But I mean, obviously you can do things with the terrain that would improve it, but I don't want to like give the impression that the terrain's the only thing that caused this, right?
Oh, same. I think it's the rules. I think it's the rules.
Yeah, I agree. It's mostly the rules actually, and I love all these memers in chat voting no for is Admech broken down here, because. I think what feels bad for the final is it wasn't really a final between two players. It just wasn't. And Ham's fan saying, I like the sounds of Tom's Eldar list, to be honest. I think my Eldar list did exactly the same thing that Admech does, and I'm complaining about. It's why I stopped running it after that one event, just because I think it creates a situation where I just sit there, my army does its thing, and either it works or it doesn't. And I'm not interacting with the game in any way.
Yeah.
And I think, for me, I need that, not just my own enjoyment, but I think I also will do better if I have the opportunity to pull clutches and do interesting plays.
Yeah, I think
that sounds arrogant.
I think if the game is more reliant on you playing, so let's talk about it was a final between two dice, says Nikos, and I agree. But that was the final, right? That was the final. Now I'd like to kind of and so personally I think Admech are dumb. And they should be toned down, but I also think Drukhari should be toned down. And I think whenever you're having a conversation about competitive gaming, this is in Age of Sigmar or 40k, there's no bias in this. As soon as you say 60% win rate, your game is giga fucked, and everyone is fucking literally wearing clown paint while they're playing at a tournament. Literally painting it on their face. Yeah, they're like that. Oh, I'm going to this tournament. You're like, which army are you playing? Not the 60% win rate, as they paint clown face on. Yeah, and they fucking stick a red nose on, and there they are. I think it's ludicrous. Truth be told, and that's for any of the game systems. I'd like to point out, and that's
of course,
and because we're kind of in this. It's kind of This is going to move us quite nicely to another conversation. We're like, it's not as bad as it could be, which is never in my opinion.
I mean, it could always be worse.
It could always be worse, isn't it? Good. I don't think that's a good place. Yeah, it should be like, oh, this is great all the time.
You could be on fire. I mean,
Right. Anyway, which moves us on to the players in the final, right? Which has been a thing. So the final, we've talked about the terrain. Maybe the terrain could have been more dense, but maybe that skews the meta in a different direction. We've talked about the army styles and maybe the rules, and definitely the meta is giga-fucked. But there's probably still a ton of great games you can play. I think that's true. A lot of people came up to me and said, "Oh, I had a great game," or "This was really fun," and then someone's like, "Then I just ran into insert the smash list that destroyed me turn one." We're going to talk about the watchability. Tom, before we go into talk about the players, let's talk about the watchability. How do you feel about the watchability of the games over the course of the weekend?
I'm going to be honest, for watchability, it was fucking fantastic because we were casting. Okay. That's number one. Okay. But if you strip the commentators out hypothetically,
yeah.
I think a lot of the games, it's difficult for me to say because a lot of the times when I was casting, I was looking at the game and I was like, holy shit, this game is doomed. And I'm like turn 2 or something. Like, here's a great example, actually. The very first game of the Open that we commentated had Jay Middlecote versus AJ and his Harlequins.
Yep.
Playing Knights versus Harlequins. And I looked at the two lists, and I know Jay would think, oh, it's probably bad for me. And he did, because I watched Jay's stream. And I was like, actually, Jay could do with this, because I've played a lot of Harlequins over lockdown, because I've been playing a lot of TTS. And they can't push everything in your face turn one. They can't, because you only have a certain number of buffs, and you have a certain number of movement, right? And the fusion pistols are very, very short ranged. And I was like, well, it's not cut and dry here, because he only has one big squad of bikes. He has the young car, and he needs Jay to walk into the middle of the board and then hit him, okay? And we bring him on the stream, and Harlequins go first. And the first thing that happens is AJ takes his 5-man squad of Skyweavers, and he pushes them max inches towards Jay's army. And I look at that, and I'm like, oh no. Oh, fuck. The game is over. The game is over immediately, right? Or at least it should be. But firstly, you need to account for players, right? Because players can always make mistakes.
Yep.
Always. And I don't know that Jay's going to punish it properly. I trust that he is, because I know Jay, and I know that Jay's a good player, and I know that he plays Knights the way Knights are supposed to be played, which is not sit at the back and shoot your guns. It's get as much value out of your feet as you physically can. So I know Jay is going to... Yeah, exactly. I know Jay is going to punish, but I haven't seen it yet. And my job isn't to tell the chat what's going to happen. Because if my job was to do that, I could cut the stream after 30 minutes and just go home, right? My job is to provide context, to provide information on the actual game, right?
Yeah.
And as to what's happening and why things are happening. Because I actually wrote a lot about this in the run up to the event. And when I saw that, it was just like, I know the game's over. I would, if I was at home, I'd have it on in the background, but I wouldn't be like immediately watching it. But I can still make this game watchable, right? Because not everyone at home is going to see that and know game's done.
So how?
Right?
But my question is how do you feel? Like, thanks to Wargamer and Mamdad both for resubscribing, by the way. Love you tons. Hey Dayton. How do you feel about the fact that the game, like that singular decision in turn one, effectively like already decides the game? I'm not talking about from a commentary perspective. Like how does it feel?
Firstly, I actually kind of love it.
Okay.
Because at least it was a player decision. At least it was a player decision.
Fair. Okay.
And it wasn't a fucking roll-off.
It wasn't just a roll-off like the final. Okay,
yeah.
That's good. That's fine. Yeah, that's fair.
Exactly. Yeah. And it wasn't like, oh, that's happened and the game is definitely over. It's happened, and I'm like, right, if both players play perfectly from this point, Jay wins. But that's always going to be the case. It's like we talk about with who is the beatdown, right? One player immediately should be winning this game, right? Because of how the matchup interacts from certain like contextual differences. The beatdown just switched. That's all it was. But not everyone can immediately tell what's going to happen, and that's the joy of it, though, right? Like, if I knew exactly what was going to happen every single time we got into a new game, the game would be so boring to watch. But because we've got players asserting themselves on the game and player agency. It's a great watch, and that is why I have a problem with this current edition and this current like set of codices for watchability.
Talk to me.
Because it completely takes away the ability of players to dictate the game and put their own stamp on the game. It isn't players deciding most of these games.
What is that? Is that because of the strength of the codexes?
Yes. And the ease at which they play. Like AdMech. Oh, anyone can take an AdMech army, fly 5 planes over and shoot you in the face.
Not to dismiss Malik's achievement.
No, not of course, no, of course, because lots of people were taking Admech,
Mm.
right? And
Someone was going to
and
filter to the
Malik still
top.
won both.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Someone was going to filter to the top, but it's not like you watch the final and you think, oh, Malik has really outplayed Alex there, right?
Yeah.
What could Alex have done better?
Um,
Roll higher on first turn. Fine.
Yes. Uh, yes, that's 100% true. I think you're right. Like I think player
Yeah.
agency. I think that's one of the interesting things, right? Because I talk about this a lot when I talk on the show on my own. And just to re-clarify for everyone,
Yeah.
there's a really good book. It's a PDF called Playing to Win, and it
Yeah.
discusses competitive competitive StarCraft and competitive Street Fighter, and specifically from the point of view of like being a player effectively, and you ask yourself if it's worth learning how to play. Um, by the way, the prediction in the chat is Admech broken or not broken? I guess the answer is it yes, Tom, or no? You get to decide.
I think everyone was spamming their thing with no, but I'm going to say yes because it ruins the fun of the
There
game.
you go. Tom decided. So someone who voted yes has just won.
Someone gets a lot of points.
Someone just won a lot of hydration tokens in
I
that.
didn't just lob 100k points onto yes, you know. So, I can actually prove I didn't. It's fine.
Anyway,
It's all right.
thanks, Will Dockerel, for resubscribing. Saw Tom at LGT. He's so much taller in real life. He is.
Everyone says that. We had this
It's
conversation.
okay. Everyone says that. Everyone says that about. Everyone says that about me too.
Sure.
Everyone says that about me too. They think we just live inside these little boxes like hobbits. Anyway, that book talks about is it worth learning a game? Like you got to ask yourself, is it worth being good at a game? Because if your skill isn't a factor, not to say anyone who did well at the weekend or didn't do well at the weekend was due to skill, but I do think the more you push the book being stronger, I'm sure still the good players do better with strong books. I think that's probably a correlation. So I still think skill is good, but I feel like skill being reduced as the
it's about how much of a component that
is. Skill. Like let's say like the skillful player with a good book always beats the unskillful player with the good book, but the skillful player's effectiveness with the book is like skill is 10% versus book being 90%, and like it tends to move across. Whatever that is, I feel like absolutely. When books are too strong, it feels like the player skill reduces down significantly. We have that in Age of Sigmar at the minute as well. Like there's a bunch of people just pushing four gargants around and like, look, Stu Redacted. Formula One is the perfect. I've talked about this loads. The perfect analogy for Warhammer all around.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's always the same. Because yes, there's two kind of things that are working in that case. You get to choose the fast car, let's say, in that situation. So you get to choose the fastest car of the lot. That's you choosing the army. And then the engineers can also make your car faster. And that really is your list.
Yeah.
That's your list design or whatever it might be. Hey, Donaldinho. Just watched the whole of the finals hot take. That was not a heavily contested or chippy game. They sound like tired dudes who have played before. Tanner Herbert, I agree with that as well.
They definitely were tired dudes who played before.
Yeah.
I can 100% confirm that. Yeah.
So I think that's one of those major problems, right? Like the watchability, and the watchability isn't actually that important to almost anyone other than like me, Tom, and the commentary team and the viewers. Really, it should be the player.
Yeah, because we want to make it as good as possible, right?
Yeah, well, we want it to be watchable, but if it's not watchable, then it's not worth streaming. The real point is it playable? Like, is it still fun to play? And Nick's point in the chat earlier, I think, was, and I think a lot of 40k players would still be like, yeah, I still enjoy the game. I still think the game is fun to play. But I do think that the more you increase player agency, the more effective the game would be.
It's more you have to talk about, right? Because like if a player does something unique and interesting, like even if it is, I am going to take my 5 Skyweavers and throw them at your face, right?
Yeah.
I can talk about that, and I could talk about why you might have done that, and I could also talk about why I think that Jay will respond like this, and I think that would be good for Jay, or he might not. You know what I mean? I could talk about it. But if Guy moves Admech plays, that's right. That's the Stratoraptor bomber, whatever it is, flying across the board and dropping some wounds. We'll see how many wounds that's done. I mean, it's just self-evident. I can't really talk about it.
Not a lot you can do.
It's a bit of a problem. It's like we had the final of the Invitational that me and Innes were casting, and we somehow stretched that bad boy out to 2 hours. And I'm just like, I need to watch that back because I have no idea how I managed to see Innes talk for 2 hours straight at that speed. I feel like if you slowed him down, you'd have 6 hours of content. Like, and that's
Tom, how
me
does it feel?
saying
How
that.
does it feel
So
to not be the fastest talker on the 40k streaming
I'm
desk?
gonna be honest.
Yeah,
I mean, I was trying to keep it a little bit slower
yeah.
than than I normally talk. Like I was trying to enunciate a little bit better because I knew, like, we actually had a weird situation, right? So when we got into the game, we had all these stats, right, where we could bring them up, and here's a graphic, and it shows you the stats. There's this faction, there's this faction, its best matchups, its worst matchups. We also had secondaries to talk about. We also had deployment to talk about. We also had first turn roll off to talk about. We also had the stories of the players to talk about. We also had interesting things about the list to talk about. So you end up with all of the stuff you want to talk about really front loaded on the broadcast, right? So what me and Nikos did was we tried to sit down, like between one of the rounds, and just work out, right, what are we going to talk about early, and what can we save for later on the broadcast? Because it's not like we don't have enough things to talk about. It's just that all of this information is useful to know early, right? Like you want to talk about all those things.
You want to
like, straight
you
up,
want to
because otherwise,
contextualize the environment.
yeah, exactly. So I think that's one of the things we need to work out. And specifically, I don't think we had time because often, like in a round, I'd be running around the hall trying to find people to go on stream or cool armies or cool matchups that I thought would be good on stream, right? And Nikos would be joining me in doing that. So I think one of the things for future is that we can sit down and we need to work out exactly how we talk about the game and what order we do it in. Because it's not like we don't have things to talk about. It's just that we need to work out how to spread that out. And I don't think that's an easy thing to do. But it's just like something that you don't really see until you're actually on the broadcast, right? Like it takes experiencing it to understand exactly what I mean by that.
It does, which is having done it now. I think I've done 40 events now, which is quite a lot of streaming. To be honest, you don't really understand what that conversation is until you've done it several times. But yeah, that's a side note. Yeah, and a good point, well made, because I think it just improves the cast for other people, which I think is the important point. The kind of the watchability is interesting because I haven't yet had a chance to watch it back. But one of the things that we did do at the weekend was if we had, there was a couple of instances where audio didn't work or for some reason we just didn't click record on the invitational final. Well done us as a team. Thumb ups to the whole team. But we recorded the whole games with player audio. And we're gonna go into talking about like the final being uploaded on YouTube in a moment. But this is fascinating. Now, one of the things that I didn't tell the players in detail, and Malik's fed this back to me, and it's something for me to do next time, is that the audience will be able to hear this. Yeah, so be aware of that. But actually, I kind of talked about this on the show on Tuesday, and I talked about this myself. So when you watch a battle report, you're literally like, and the description I gave it on Monday was, when you're watching a battle report, this is front of house. This is a waitress bringing you...
You're putting your best face on.
Yeah, bringing you the food. Oh, is everything okay? How's your meal? Like, here's the AdMech. Yeah? When you're watching it with player audio, you're seeing what it's like to get like the food made in the kitchen. And if any of you have ever been in a kitchen, it's a hellhole full of psychopaths. Like, that's all I can say. Like, that's all the only way I can describe it in my head. Now, the reaction to the player audio from the final has been pretty stark, but I've never. So we recorded most of the games. Like I've just uploaded Innis versus Malik's game, right? That's going to go on the Patreon. It's not going to go on the YouTube because it's not presentable content. It's do you want to hear what it sounds like when Innis plays Malik? Yeah. Right? Do you want to hear what that sounds like? You can listen to that for 2.5 hours.
Do you want to listen to more in it?
Yeah, I personally, I think that's actually really, really valuable. I think that's actually really valuable because you can hear how top players talk to each other. Top players, players of note, whatever you would be.
I love how you bring up Innis and Malik and say, yeah, just not sure about top players. Players, okay, Malik, yeah.
But like the reaction from people on YouTube specifically has been pretty dire to that, which I find fascinating because I've always been a big stand. I've always been a big stand of not doing player audio when you stream tournaments because it's dull. Yeah, and it doesn't, and it's not really helpful. But actually, the only one that we've uploaded so far, although I might upload Dick Van der Hoosen's game versus
with
Nassim, because they were just having a barrel of laughs, and I would like to give some context for the difference. So I would argue that it's not the right way to present games anyway. But still, that said, Tom, you've obviously played on tables like this. You've played against players like this. How representative would you say that the audio? And don't forget, these two players have played like maybe 10 games of Warhammer over 3 days. How representative would you say that the audio was of a game?
So I actually watched the game, the entire thing with the player audio. And I watched it and I was like, yeah, this is fine.
This is how it sounds.
This is normal.
Like,
so, yeah. Like I didn't think there was anything like untoward in there at all. So I'm left wondering, why on earth do people think this is weird? The answers I've come to aren't necessarily particularly flattering, and I'm sure I'm going to get some comments saying, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about, mate, and you're just a cunt." And I'm like, you know what? I kind of am, but at the same time, I've got 3 best sports trophies behind me. I don't really mind like you thinking, but I'm anything other than nice to play with. I don't think I'm the best opponent because I try to be as self-aware as I can, but equally I try to be, as accommodating as possible, right? Yep. And I watched that game and I was just like, okay, so what are the main issues people are talking about? I think the first one was they were having some discussions about like deployment and shit. But at the same time, you had Malik just lobbing units down because they both knew what the score was. Both these players go into the game. They've played 7 games in 2 days. It's 9 o'clock in the evening on a Sunday. They're exhausted. And Malik's just like, yeah, mate, we both know what's going on here. Let's just put our models down. And like Malik is just like, if you go and watch it back, Malik is repeatedly saying, like, yeah, it doesn't matter about how many units put down. I'm going to put my army here. You're going to put your army there. We're going to roll off. So when they're just talking about like, oh, well, that was there and that was there, it's just 2 mates just discussing like they're still playing together, even if they've both got completely different, ideas of what's happening. And the second one was just Alex with the dice thing. And I'm just like, Alex has rolled like 1 million dice in at that point. I'm just like, and Alex at that point had already offered to concede the game. He'd already offered to concede the game. So to think that, I get that it's Alex, but to think that is anything but untoward is mind blowing to me. So basically what you've got 2 kind of more assertive personalities playing for a super major with each other. And it's not confrontational really. So when I look at the,
well,
the comments,
it is. Hold on. It is confrontational because by nature it's a confrontational environment.
Oh no, of course, but you know what I mean in terms of it's not like they're going to come to blows or anything like that. They're just like discuss it out, and it's fine, right? So yeah, I didn't think there was anything untoward in that at all, to be honest, and I didn't think, I just don't get it.
So how do you feel? How do you feel though? Talk to me a little bit. And Twitch chat. This is a question also for you. If you're listening back on YouTube, I'd like to know your thoughts as well. Because I'm obviously sat on, and it's been part of my week. I'm sat on a ton of great games with player audio, and I'm going to put it all on Patreon. Yeah, because that's already the space that we've said that we're going to put this stuff. I'm tempted to put Dick's game on YouTube as well, just with a bump at the front. I'm going to put a bumper at the front to just be like, look, this is the situation. This is what we're going to do here. Like, hey, by the way, this is player audio. There might be swearing. They might eat some crisps at some point. It's 3 hours long.
Oh, mate, my favorite comment was that guy saying the commentators really shouldn't be eating crisps.
They're not commentators. They're fucking players. Like, mate, it's incredible technology. We live streamed the final at the same time as recording the player audio, crisply, better than a battle report in most cases. It's fucking golden. Yeah, people should fucking.
The second one was that guy on Twitter saying, "Oh, they should, this wasn't a great game, but it really should broadcast some mid-table games." So this was the only game being played.
The only game.
This was the only one.
All the 500 people had gone home. There were no more people. Anyway, yeah, what an idiot.
I think the conclusion that I came to, based on that backlash, mate, I don't think you need to worry about that at all, mate. I think if you want to put it on, you put it on, because I think it is worthwhile. But the conclusion that I've come to, and I know at least the first bit of this, I'm definitely going to get some stick. I've come to the conclusion that the vast majority of people who were commenting on that, complaining about how the players are interacting with each other, have not been to tournaments. And the second thing I was going to say is I think a lot of it is there because it's Alex.
Okay, we'll put a pin in the Alex conversation for a moment because I think it needs to come around, and I don't think me and Tom are going to agree on it. But we'll come back to the conversation, right?
But it's okay.
Right, and I agree. I also agree.
I understand.
But I do agree with you to a certain extent. There was some pushback when I talked about this on Tuesday as well. Again. Just front of house. 40k has been presented to people front of house. You have like 2 systems of currently getting 40k, right? 4. You got 4 now. 4 systems of getting 40k. First up, you get the most like anesthetic what is it when you disinfected? The most disinfected version of 40k you can possibly ever get in a Games Workshop battle report. You couldn't get any less fringe, right? So then you've got the battle reports by all of the quality content creators who I really respect. Your Tabletop Titans, your Tabletop Tactics, your 40k in 40 minutes. Respect it, hate it, but respect the hell out of it, right? Respect the hell out of it. Listen, I just want those guys to go. Listen, because I watch Ice Road Truckers, I watch Deadliest Catch, I watch the Alaskan Bush People. All of that's fine. I don't know how that format somehow became 40k format, but this is a side note, right? So that's your second tier, right? Second tier, they're not ranked, right? But that's your other group, I get you. And that is by far the most absorbed content, by far the most absorbed content in the world, right? And that makes loads of sense because it's entertaining, it's a good friendship simulator, you get to see some stuff happen, it's non-offensive, it's as clean cut can be, right? You take it home to your mum, she'd be definitely marry that guy, marry that girl, whatever. Yeah. Marry that whoever they want to be.
Person, yeah.
Yeah, marry that person. Off you go. Thank you. That's the word I should have used. Marry that person. So it's good, right? But it's the most absorbed format. And the thing about that is it's not tournament Warhammer. It's not bullshit. It's not bullshit. It's just not tournament Warhammer. You're right. I've had incredibly friendly games.
Bullshit,
it just doesn't make any sense. Whereas. So then the other 2 versions, one which has never really existed, which now has existed for the first time this weekend, I think. People have recorded games with player audio before, but this was pretty crystal clear and you could listen to everything. You could also
sometimes streams were just people sending out player audio into space.
Yeah,
I think we're doing a lot better.
Anyway,
but we've got both.
But then you have commentary, which is a different set of representation as well. This is you saying, hey, these are some top armies playing against each other, or these are some armies playing against each other, and you've got great people like Adam Camilleri, you, Nick, some great people doing all of this coverage. Nick Nanavati, I think he did excellent last time on the Games Workshop stream.
Some other noobs.
I did. I think they all did really well. Pete did an amazing job. Pete, the Falcon. Anyway, really good stuff. And then you get this kind of insight from a player who knows what they're talking about what they're seeing. And I think that's really digestible. But again, it's really clean and it's really not what's happening on the tabletop. And then the player audio is this just fucking horror show of lies. And I don't mean they're lying about dice rolls or anything. They're like, oh mate, yeah, I'll probably beat you now. And you're like, maybe you haven't beaten me. Maybe you should shut the fuck up. That's how they talk.
A good example of this, mate. Here's a great example. Yeah. Oh wait, are you talking about the GW and the other ones? Or are you talking about the competitive ones?
What events?
When you say that
coverage
about what? No, when you say oh maybe you have beaten me or maybe you haven't beaten me.
Oh, any event.
Oh right, yeah, because I remember minute 1 of this game, Malik asks Alex, do you have a way of winning if you go second? And Alex goes, yes. And everyone's memeing it in the comments because of course he doesn't. But he's not going to tell Malik that, is he? It's still trying to win.
Why would you ever tell someone that? Gameplay. It's insane.
I know. No, I can't win. Yeah, the game's over now. Yeah, sound. Yeah.
Thanks, Nikita Williams, for subscribing. Big love to you. So yeah, I find that fascinating because this is one of the first times that we've put it out there, and it's had some reasonable viewage.
Yeah.
But the comments have been pretty severe. about it. Like ultimately, some haven't, but some have. And I think it's quite interesting to hear that. And again, I'll probably put the Dick and Nassim game up because I think that's maybe a counterpoint to two people having a great game, but you'll still hear them being sassy with each other, right?
Oh yeah,
and also everyone gets
that's part of the fun though.
Everyone gets fucking drunk at Warhammer events. They're like, oh, maybe kids should play Warhammer. I'm like, yeah, they can, but everyone's getting drunk and they're swearing, like they're blowing off steam.
No one's ever put you must be 18 plus to go to this event, apart from like GW events. Need men, it doesn't really hold true. But you probably should.
You probably should. Yeah, you probably should. I think that's a really good point. Well done, Tom. Anyway, so I think that's interesting and about the viewability and the watchability, and I'm really interested to see how people absorb some of that, because obviously, like the live stream stuff, I'm very comfortable with. That stuff people can go back and watch. It was great, but I'm really interested to see how people absorb that information. Right, okay, let's move on to the next subject now, which is Alex, right? Who was charming and lovely lovely to me every time I interacted with him at the weekend. I want to be super clear about that, right? Was really nice. So Alex Harrison was in the final of the LGT, and Alex was previously banned from the LGT event. Alex has also been in, to my mind, 3 different controversies, the LGT and 2 other controversies to do with his player, his gamesmanship, and also potentially cheating, right, at these different events, right?
Yeah.
That was him. And to quote Malik and yourself, he's made big strides and changes to change his behavior. And to quote earlier, it's not as bad as it could be, but in my opinion, Tom, it's still not great. However, having Alex in the final at the LGT was, in my opinion, a PR disaster. Reading the YouTube comments, and I wonder, like, what you would like to say about it.
PR disaster for whom specifically?
For 40k. This is what's really interesting, because people, I had quite a few messages, people saying things are like, why have you put this up? Like it's going to be bad for the channel. And I'm like we're a sports casting network. We observe what occurs and then we tell people. Like, you can't do any better than listen to the players talk to each other and watch the fucking models move. There is no better sunlight. I've been saying this all week. There's no better sunlight to like pour that antiseptic that is what's happened. There's no, he said he did this, or he said he did that, or a judge saw him do that. You can fucking watch the thing start to finish in HD. It's not 1080p, I'd like everyone to know. 720.
It's definitely.
It's 720. So...
get your phones out, lads. Get your phones out.
But, Tom, have your thoughts, and then we'll go into a discussion about it. Twitch chat, I want to hear what you think as well. What do you think?
Well, can you ask like a direct question, because that was kind of like a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, it was.
You're I don't mean to be a dick.
Yeah,
but I need
you're absolutely right. How do you feel about Alex being allowed to return to the event? And we're talking Alex specifically, like, and I don't think the fella minds, to be honest, at all.
Nah, he'll be fine.
We'll speak about him, and then I guess his touches on like TJ Lanigan and a bunch of other people who like have been in this situation, right? Especially prominent names, right? I'm sure, has Alex been in the LVO final one year?
He won it. Yeah.
No, he hasn't won the LVO.
He won it once.
He was in the final.
Yes, he has.
Has he won the LVO?
No, he's done both.
Oh.
Yeah, he's been in the final twice and won it once.
Okay. All right. So effectively large 40k names, right? TJ, same thing, and a bunch of other people. So my question is for you, how do you feel about him being at 40k tournaments? That's my question. I'll give you a minute to think about it. Do you want a minute while I look at the chat?
No, it's fine. No, I've talked about this for eons, so I can go with it.
Yeah.
And I'll take me like a couple of minutes, but I'll go for it anyway. Yeah. So first things first. Yeah. Disclaimer, because I don't expect anyone to come out of listening to me, and in fact I would hope people don't come out of ever listening to me and immediately have the same opinion as me. Yeah. This is just my perspective, and this is my view. It doesn't mean it's right. It just means that's what I think at the minute, and that's subject to change at all times. Mm-hmm. So disclaimer, I am friends with Alex. Mm-hmm. We hang out outside of 40k. We just play League together and shit on Discord servers and stuff. Like, we're mates, okay? So anything I say will have a bias potentially,
Mm-hmm.
right? So definitely take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt. I think there's two different strands you could go here. The first one is, I think, what do I think is personally right? And the second one is, what do I think is good PR? Okay.
Yeah.
What I think is right is that Alex's last major incident, or incident at all, really,
Mm-hmm.
when I think about them, were that clips video from 2018
Mm-hmm.
from LGT
Mm-hmm.
and the South Coast GT, where he nudged the model off that objective,
Yes, he did.
allegedly.
I was there.
Which okay, yes, but you know what I mean.
No
You
alleged.
know exactly what I
With
mean.
my own fucking
There's
eyes.
with your own eyes.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. From the horse's mouth, you have heard it.
Yeah. I am the horse.
Now,
Yeah.
yes, he has always been known since I have played competitive 40k as a cheeky dude, and he is a cheeky dude. You've met him.
that's,
But-
that's English for a shyster, I think. But like, whatever. Let's go on.
I mean,
everyone not in England, like, what the fuck does cheeky?
yeah. However,
Go on, carry on.
like these
Mm.
things were mainly brought up, I think, because of the advent of live streaming. So, as a mate, that I don't know if there was anything like beforehand, right? Although that said, there were like games where I'd like, oh, I'll record this game. So I actually recorded in 2016 James Ramsey versus Alex Harrison at the final of the Caledonian Uprising with a tripod,
Mm.
just because I fancied it, because I wanted to have that on record, because I was a referee and I wanted it, and it was fine.
Yeah.
But with all the event live streaming, obviously this is coming to the light, right? Since then, we have obviously still had all the live streams. We've had Alex being tailed through the entire LVO by a judge, and he's been fine. We have had
Well, hold
multiple
on.
years now.
Hold on.
Obviously,
I guess it's the difference between like a career. Oh no, you finish
well,
your point. You finish your point, and I'll come back.
no, it's because I've got obviously I'm doing a full essay, like, and then you can
Yeah,
go
yeah.
nuts
Let's
on it.
do it.
Because as
Let's do
I said,
it.
I know we're not going to agree on this one, but it's one of those.
Yeah.
I just want to get the perspective out. Where I feel like he has played so many events and been around so much for so long, specifically after these events, without incident, that I feel like he's earned a second chance at that. No matter what you think of the SCGT and the LGT stuff, right? I feel and I believe that he has earned that right. Okay.
Okay.
Now the PR thing. Is it great PR that it looks like we tolerate, like, because if I'm just a guy on the outside, it can look like
Yep.
we tolerate existing cheaters, which I don't believe is true, but it can, PR wise, I can understand that perspective, right? But I would rather look like that than look like a community who is actively unforgiving.
Okay. All right. All fair points. And I agree with Tom on the point that redemption is something as a society we work towards. We don't like it's punishment and rehabilitation. You get sent to jail and you're meant to get rehabilitated. There are two sorts of systems. There's the prison industrial complex in America where they just put people in punishment cells and they come out normally and they reoffend, or you have something like the European countries where what they do is they focus on rehabilitation and you get reoffenses generally happen less. Right, so rehabilitation is generally, from a societal point of view, something we strive for as a society anyway, but also by intent actually produces better people post incarceration, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And two things before we move on to you, mate.
Yeah.
Firstly, you have to trust me that if Alex is ever caught doing something untoward in the future, I would come down and like a ton of bricks. And I would. And I know, and he knows that too. Secondly, oh fuck, I forgot what I was going to say.
So can't have been great.
Secondly, no, I've got it.
Go for it.
The only things that the people in the YouTube comments section of that video were really saying was made up bullshit about deployment when it was two people working it out together, or dice rolls when it was two people working it out together, and the game was already over, or spamming the original LGT statement about Alex being back.
Yeah.
There was nothing that they could find in that video to criticize him. They just were there to do it regardless.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Let's unpack that. Number one. Also, if I was a career criminal and a policeman followed me around a shop, I wouldn't commit any crimes. So I think the LVO point, like when you have a judge follow you.
No, but it hasn't been every event that he's had a judge follow.
No, but
right?
when you're at an event and a judge follows you every game, I assume you're not going to cheat while the judge is right there.
No, of course,
like,
of course.
I think,
but he hasn't been followed around by a judge every event.
I know, and I'll come to that.
Yeah.
Right, so Shugo, thanks for resubscribing, baby. So, okay. Well, do you know what? Let's put a pin in whether or not he's ever done anything wrong. Yeah? Let's just put a pin in it. How about this?
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. It does in the fullness of time, right? But it doesn't matter to me. Let's just put a pin in it and just do that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about it from a PR perspective. Let's do that, right?
Yeah,
so Europe's largest 40k event this year, whenever, ever, who knows? Yeah, has. If you go on and be like, oh, the final of this huge 40k event, I'd like to go and listen. Wait, I can listen to the players. I wonder what the type of players are like. Oh, they sound a bit tired. What are these YouTube comments? And then you read them. Now, ill-informed or 1,000% right, it doesn't matter. Yeah, Plymouth Troll says I agree, 100%. Let's start a campaign. It doesn't matter. If you didn't let Alex play at the LGT, right? Yeah, you would have gone from 600 players to 599 players. But what you would have done is change the conversation about that final, right? And honestly, I don't care enough about the man's feelings to care, right? I just don't care. But what I do think for 40k, right? Same way with TJ Lanigan, right? So he's been filming himself playing all of his games to prove that he's changed. Yeah, I'm sorry, I've changed. Okay, fair enough. Yeah? It still puts everything you ever did into question. And it puts everything you're ever going to do into question. You just don't get to avoid it. You just, it's not like, hey, we should all be better, and I'd rather we were seen as we're not seen as a forgiving community. And there's no one in those comments like, do you know what? Good on you guys for letting him. That isn't how the internet works. That isn't how PR works. And that isn't what we're looking to do. What you should be thinking about, not you personally, us, what we should be thinking about, right, is what's the most, because we've already talked about it, right? What's the most presentable fashion of 40k? We're already like, maybe the terrain could have been better and the games would have been more interactive. That would be cool. Maybe the codexes couldn't be as powerful, right? And therefore they wouldn't be quite so over early. Maybe those planes can't do whatever the fuck those planes do. Tom, I don't know what those planes do, but I just know they fucking win. Yeah? That's what I know.
They do that. They do that,
right? Maybe don't make them do that. Thank you, Nurgle Matthew, for donating a gift sub. Big love to the Wicket Keeper. I don't think we should make decisions on PR. We should. We 100% should make decisions based on that, because what we're talking about is public relations. Yeah, I'm not like some wanky. I'm not Coca-Cola, right? I'm representing people. What you're really saying is, you want to go to the next LGT, right? Or whatever. So maybe you Google it and you watch that video and you think, oh, fuck that. If they just let cheaters get, how do I know I'm not playing a cheater? How do I know? When the conversation is constant.
I get this.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When the conversation, when the conversation is consistently about that subject, that's all the conversation is. It's dry. You'd rather that whole, imagine if Alex wasn't playing, right? And again, I bear the man no ill will, yeah? Right? Imagine he wasn't playing, it was someone else. The conversation would be solely focused on why the fuck does AdMech do that? Right?
You still get the same dislike ratio.
Right. But
I think you still get that, right?
The question becomes, right?
Shall we ban AdMech? Hey, let's ban AdMech as well, because PR is shit. Look at how shit our game is.
I would. Someone's like, let's ban AdMech. I'm like, great, let's do that.
There you
fucking
go.
ban him, right? Right? That's what I'm trying to say.
Let's just make a new game. Fuck it, we're all playing Marvel now. It's much better.
Yeah.
Go play that.
Yeah, I banned them too.
Yes.
Right.
And this is the thing, I can't even disagree with you, because I see where you're coming from, and I think the difference is entirely a philosophical one, right? I'm not willing to throw Alex out, but I understand why you would be. And that's fine. We're allowed.
Well, that's what I said to him in the final. I walked up to him. I walked up to him. I was like, "Aren't you banned?" And he was like, "No." I was like, "Fine."
Mate, It was that comment that came up at the stream where it's like he was playing against the AdMac and you went up to him and said, "Oh, this must be the first time that you don't have to be the bad guy," or something like that.
And I mean,
he was loving it.
Someone else, Nurgle Matthew,
Yeah.
thanks for being the wicket keeper and dropping
Yeah.
10 gift subs, right? And also someone else said to me the other day, he said, the bigger the villain, the bigger the victory. Yeah, so Malik's win is huge because, I mean, he wins with Admech, right? But he
slew the beast.
Yeah, but he slays the beast.
And he killed it in one turn.
Yeah. Hold on, let me just see what the chat's saying because they've
fine.
got some points and I'd like to come back to it. With
For
that
fuck's
logic,
sake.
Rob, not allowing Admech would also be a good PR move. You are. PR maybe is the wrong term. Infringe on individuals to better the majority. I'm not infringing on an individual. I'm infringing on definitively someone who I've seen cheat. This isn't anything else. I've seen him at the LGT cheat. Yeah? Not LGT, sorry. South Coast GT.
SCGT.
I've been there, right? So I personally wouldn't let him play. I personally wouldn't put him, have him on the stream. Or I'd say you can play, but you're not allowed to go through to the final, or whatever. I'd be like, yeah, you can play, but you're just going to be scored 0, or like whatever at the end of the event. Like something. If you want to like let the guy play, let the guy play. But like, I don't know why you allow the conversation. Like same way like with that TJ Lanigan bloke. Like fuck that guy. I don't know him. Like he's trying his hardest to be a good dude. I don't know him as much as I don't know Alex. Fuck that guy. Like, if they make it to a final, they'll be like, this TJ guy won. And the chat will be fucking full. What? Like I haven't streamed?
Oh, yeah,
I haven't streamed for 6 years?
I
Like I haven't been doing this for a living for 6 years? Twitch chat, you fucking rogues. I know what you're like. YouTube commentators, I see you as well. Podcast bros. You will go in. The jokes will be thick and fast. You'll be taking the piss. Yeah? It will be the main subject of conversation. And that is terrible because what you're wanting to do is craft a conversation. You want to be like, oh, Admech planes are so good, let's have that chat, right? It's not good.
Yeah.
So
are you ready, Phil? Like, so if just to demonstrate that I'm consistent on this, I back the memes, I back the jokes, even if they're a little bit boring at this point. Hashtag water bottles. And I actually kind of like that. But I don't know TJ very well at all, but I would back him to come back as well.
Okay.
Because if he can demonstrate that he's reformed, then I would be fine with that. There are some people who I've seen not only repeatedly do it, but also then come up to me in person and call everybody else liars. Who I actually made that point about, I don't want to go to an event if I think there's even a chance I'm going to play that person. And I've said that to.
But isn't that going to be the same with Alex? Like, because there's no context with TJ.
The difference is that I believe that Alex is reformed, and I believe that TJ can demonstrate that he is reformed. And if I play them, I'll happily do it. In fact, I played Alex at the ETC in 2019, and I had a great time. It was great. But I mean, I'm a bit of a sadist, so you know, I'm all right with that. And so I play TJ too. I wouldn't play this other person that I'm referencing, and I'm not going to give their name because I don't believe it's actually important to the conversation or do anything good. But if that person is someone who promised to reform them and obviously didn't, and if I'm wrong about TJ or anyone else, then I would be on the same train as I am with this other person. But for me, I think. I don't want to throw that one person out. I don't want to be.
It's fine. We won't do that. The conversation it's not about targeting human beings. That isn't the convo.
No, I understand that. It's about PR, and I get where you're coming from. As well.
When you throw yourself out there, how many strikes does a person get? Mamdare, I think me and Mamdare probably are closer to on the same opinion on this. Like if it was my event, I'd just return the ticket. I'd just be like, you can't come. Like, why? It's like, you're a nightmare. Imagine running an event where you have to follow one person around, like, and you don't know. Like, your personal experiences, Tom, are different to someone who doesn't know someone's personal experiences, right?
No, of course.
And again, like, actually, I guess this moves on to, like, a societal point, right? Like, if someone was in jail, would you, like, for anything, would you give them a job? I would, because that's a different context. Same. Yeah, that's a different context. But this is a sporting thing, yeah? This is cheating to win. And I don't know. Like, and...
As we say, it's a philosophical difference, mate. And I respect your opinion, where you're coming from, and whether or not you do mine is by the by. But that's where I stand, and Yeah, I always like having this conversation, as we have done for many years.
We have, yeah,
So,
and over many different
we have.
people. Yeah, we've had this conversation a ton of different times. I think what's fascinating
Mm.
is those comments on that YouTube video. I find that interesting.
It's a bit weird.
Yeah, because it's almost like someone in the chat earlier said, it's a perfect storm, right? It's AdMech being fucked, right? It's who is who playing who, yeah, and
Yep.
it's the end of 10 rounds and everyone's knackered. I think that's the kind of conversation. Like, if I was Zach, I'd never let him back, especially after such a strong statement of Ban for Life. But they've addressed this, and they've said that they've changed how they're carding people because, like you, he believes that there should be a system of checks and balances, and it shouldn't just be arbitrarily you're banned. And that is bad because you can just be like, oh, I don't like you, you're banned. Like, fair enough. Right? But yeah, they get a second chance, like Brother Scar says. I'm not sure. I think it's fascinating, though, because it becomes the story of the conversation. It becomes kind of one of the stories of the weekend, right? Doesn't it? And I think that's one of the things that I'd like to move away from when doing coverage. Like, truthfully. Like, if I was to attend an event in the future and we had any player who had that representation, and Alex, who's fucking high-fiving himself, he's been mentioned so many times on the show, yeah, I would say almost cultivates that.
He loves it.
He almost cultivates that relationship and that conversation. I'd just be like, you can't be on the stream, bro. He'd be like, do you know what? He's fantastic for engagement and clicks. Like, he's fantastic. Like, if I was that, but he's terrible. But he's fucking terrible for 40k, man. Like, it's a bad representation. It is. It's like, like Mike Tyson is a brilliant boxer. Mike Tyson is
He's also an enormous cunt.
He's a rapist. Yeah? Like, everyone's like, is it...
Oh, well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was in jail. He was in jail for rape. He was in jail for rape.
I didn't know that. I'm not that interested in Mike Tyson.
And then people are like...
alive at the time.
People are like, isn't it funny he's in The Hangover? It's Mike Tyson. I'm like, he's a fucking rapist. Like, don't put him on the films. Like,
that's kind of weird. I've seen The Hangover. I did not know that.
He also bit someone's ear off. Like, he's a bad...
Oh, I know about that.
Yeah.
I knew about that. Like.
Yeah. So, like, right, any publicity is good. Fuck. I can't get in with that, though. I'm not... Is it Dana White?
No, I can't get in with that. But I understand, like...
And I'm not equating them. I would like to be super clear. I'm not equating them.
No, of course.
Yeah, I'd like to be really clear. I'm not doing that.
No, of course. Absolutely not.
100% not.
Absolutely not.
100% not.
Yeah, definitely get
right. I just want to make sure I say that. So, yeah, I would... like, my point is that, like, I would say that he's bad. Like, he's bad for boxing, in my opinion. Do you know what? Loads of people don't give a fuck, though, Tom. Like, loads of people don't give a fuck. And I think this is something I'm personally struggling with. In that, like, some people don't give a shit. Not really sure what you're meant to do with that, right? Like, when you do the...
It's not that I don't give a shit. I just want to be seen as a community that is as welcoming as it physically can be. And not necessarily to cheaters. Not to cheaters, okay?
Yeah.
But gives room for reformation. And if someone cheats and then, like, they're done...
I agree with that.
I get that.
I agree with that.
I get your perspective.
I agree with that. I just wouldn't let him play the event that I'm streaming. Like, I said, like, no. Like, why? You cheated, man. Like, oh, but I'm better. Like, I don't care. Like, so, I don't care. Anyway, that's where I'm at.
Tom loves cheaters. I know, mate, this is all just a ruse to hide the fact that I'm secretly a cheater. So when I get caught for cheating... I don't get lobbed in fucking purgatory. That's all it is.
Anyway, fascinating. Fascinating, the fallout of that.
It's like, have you seen any of those JCS criminology videos?
Yeah.
Where they make up a bunch of bullshit techniques. And they say, this is the technique where you ask the person who definitely did it how we should punish a person who did it. Because if they did it, they're less likely to give themselves a harsh sentence. Hypothetically. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't think you should ban him from LGT. Tom Lane was going to be LGT, brother.
This is why me and Tom have these conversations, and me, Tom, and Nick have had these conversations for years. Because who knows? I don't know if other content creators have this conversation, but we're not scared of having the conversation. And I don't even know if I'm right. I don't know if Tom's right. Yeah, I don't know if there is a right.
Tom doesn't know I'm much either.
Yeah, like, I don't know if there is a right.
Tom just makes it up as he goes along.
Yeah, and also currently, I think people are just fucking. Yeah. People are like, like. Currently, what this is two 40k players, Tom and me, yeah, with the fucking white clown face paint on, with a red nose, yeah, with that 60% win rate above our heads, and we're like, We really need to think.
Arm wrestling
We really
without
need to
fucking
think about the.
bullshit,
We
it
really
doesn't
need to
matter.
think about the integrity of the game, Tom. Yeah, as I apply my fucking face paint. Yeah, we really got to make sure this game isn't an absolute
fun as
fucking
fuck, like.
joke.
It's great.
What?
I love it. I love it. Like, it's one of. I think we're one of those podcasts. I don't listen to many podcasts, but I hear stories about other podcasts, like where we can have these conversations, and we'll be back here next week disagreeing about something else, and it'll be fucking great.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
I love
I went
it.
to Magic the Gathering tournament once, says Shugo. Played a cheater, but because the store owner knew the guy, got swept under the rug there. Then proceeded to stop playing competitive Magic. That's.
Oh, that's bollocks. Fuck that stuff.
But no, yeah, but like that's kind of the general vibe. I think Blood of Scar said earlier as well. I think when you have the the people who represent the game badly, Tom, I think it stops people attending events. There is no metric.
I agree.
There is no metric,
disagree.
and there is no way to analyze that. That's pure speculation. But that's what I think. I think that's what it does. I think it's a bad reflection on the game.
You're 100% right.
And also,
100% right.
And also,
yeah.
I would say, like Nick has said in the chat, 99.9% of all of my games have been brilliant. Not just good, brilliant. Yeah. So I want to be really, really clear about that. There's been like 2 instances where.
Can I just intersect very quickly there? I completely agree with you, and I don't think that's you think. I think that's actually true. And the reason why I think that is because I have not attended events because of people there that I didn't want to play.
But that's what I'm trying to get at. Like people,
I agree with you on
when I was talking about when I was talking about PR,
different...
when I was talking about PR earlier, what I'm talking about is who we affect, and we affect 40k or Warhammer or whatever as a game.
I get you.
Like, I
don't disagree.
And I didn't give a fuck. I don't care that you turn up with your Games Workshop on. Like, have your fully 3D printed army, with your rules from Warhampedia, whatever the fuck you want. Like, it's not a company thing. I'm talking about. It's not like, oh no, it's the event industry, because all of my experiences at the weekend were fantastic. Neil was great. Nick Lamborn was a superstar. Like all of the players, all of the players were great. I got to on Superwell and Nassim. Really, really, really enjoyed meeting Malik. Like there was just like some people who I got to interact with time and again. I got to meet the fucking Mordian guy again. Tim, what a great guy. Yeah.
Tim, he's really good.
Yeah. Like there was loads of awesome. Saw .com again. Loved that. Right. So there
were so many people I wanted to meet, but I didn't get to because it was such a busy weekend. But yeah, it was really good to meet lots of people.
And Plymouth Troll says probably did my weekend because he's a treasure. But my point is that it's so hard to put that positive news. We'll try and do something about that next time. That's what we can do, because you should always try and end on what we can do better. And what we can do better is, other than try to avoid stuff like this, is we can work towards producing positive content that exemplifies the thing that I'm saying. That's great, because it's a great game. Clown face paint on, and it's and it's
And this is the thing, mate. Like I think my only difference with you is just about leaving room for redemption, and that's all it is. Like we agree on like 95% of this shit. It's just that 5%, but that's the interesting bit. That's the 5% interesting bit.
Yeah.
Where?
So when I was a doorman, right? Yeah. Someone fucked around inside, yeah? And I come over and I say, you can't do that, you need to leave. They go outside, they're like, oh, look, mate, I'm not going to do it again. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care.
No, I get you.
I don't care about your experiences right now. Like, whether or not someone playing 40k, like, I'm not saying they can't eat. I'm just saying you can't play in this event here. That's it. You can play with your friends. You can play it somewhere else. I'm just saying you can't do that. Don't fucking give me this shit in the chat. I don't need to hear it.
Although, really, Rob, do you know who the real victims of all this are?
Tell me.
North American ITC players.
We haven't finished. We need to talk about that. Bring it up, please.
Yeah,
we do. Forgot about that. Go on, let's talk about it. This is good.
Oh, lovely. Lovely stuff.
Okay, this is good shit. This is good shit.
So good.
Yeah.
All right, so not 2 days after the LGT had finished, okay?
Yep.
A post appeared on the R Warhammer competitive subreddit entitled, "Can we talk about the ITC scoring system for a minute?" Now, I have been for years pissing around with ITC, literally putting my team name as just a collection of emojis that simulate someone masturbating, pictures of buses, stupid team names, running Jane Czar and avatars of Kane at ITC events, because I don't give a fuck about your scoring system, okay?
Fair.
or your ranking
Okay,
system.
fair.
I get that it provides people with value.
Yep.
And I more power to you. I love it. It's just not for me because it's stupid and doesn't make sense and doesn't work as an objective system. When I'm looking at people applying for Team Wales, I'll look at their events that they've been to, unlike ITC or what have you. But I don't give a fuck about your rank, brother. Okay, not fussed. So this has been happening in America for years, in that the number of points you get doesn't scale off the quality of the field; it scales off the quantity. So if you come 40th. So a couple of years ago, someone came like 40th at the LVO, went 5-1.
So in for this chat.
So that means you played 6 games against a field of 600 or whatever it was, top 600, top 300, top 150, top 75, top whatever the fuck.
If you're Tom, by the way, if you lean past your microphone, it changes the audio quite a bit.
Sorry.
It's okay.
There we go. I'll change it.
Yeah.
There we go. So that means that you are not going to necessarily have played the best of the best players, right? But if you do that and you win 5 of those games and you lose 1, you got more points if you got a certain win streak than the guy who won the Nova Open, okay? I do not believe that those 2 achievements are equal, and therefore I do not believe that you should be getting more points for the easier of those 2 achievements from the hard.
Hold on, Tom.
And I speak as someone who has personally benefited from this.
Are you telling me that if I buy an Orc army and I achieve, and if I go loads of super majors, right, and then I get 70th at every major super major, and therefore get more ITC points, are you telling me that's not as worthwhile as winning a whole event?
I know, mate. It's not.
What?
It's not,
you
mate.
Dickhead!
You might be.
How dare you?
To be the best Orc player in the world, okay? But
how dare you say that to me?
I know.
How dare you?
I think we should give Rob loads of money so that he can go to all these super majors and become the best Orc player in the world, and then put it on his podcast bio like an insecure little bitch. Okay, that's what we should do. Okay, that's the plan.
Oh god, this is your phrasing.
We're all going to become like the best in faction for some shit faction. I'm going to be the best Inquisitor player of all time.
Can't be hard.
Okay,
can't be hard.
I'm going to put that on my bio.
Can't be hard.
That's
how
it's going to work.
Listen.
So bear in mind, in America, they've been having these super majors, fucking like Adepticon, Nova, Gamescom, fucking all these big events, like constantly, right? And they've been using this to batter Europeans about how they're better than us for years. And then we hold one event that has more than 500 people in attendance. The clubs all put down their scores, like Vanguard Tactics and Glasshammer, because they run coaching services. They get a bunch of points, and immediately the Americans start crying, and they can't handle it, mate. I can't handle it. I wouldn't even necessarily mind, mate. I don't even necessarily care. But these little bitches have been fucking crying about this after they've been benefiting from the exact problem they've been whining about for fucking years, mate. And it's lovely. I love it so much.
Wait, Tom.
It's
Tom.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Tom, are you telling me?
I can't deal with it.
Tom, are you telling me that people didn't attend the LVO because they thought it was a spectacular event, and mainly because it was worth more ITC?
They just wanted
it was
to
worth more
points.
ITC points, and in fact, it's a rig system to make more people attend.
It's almost like.
Are you telling me the people that run the ITC?
Like,
are you telling me the people?
That's the business model.
What?
I wonder why Zach's instated the UKTC system as soon as he makes a bunch of big events. Can you work it out, Rob? I can't work it out.
I can't work it out.
You?
I can't work it out.
I can't either. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's funny when it backfires in your face, mate. Oh, when we have more super majors than you, buddy. Oh, I can't. Oh, it's so nice.
Oh my god, it's so accurate as well, and it's so fucking funny. Like, it's so funny to witness. And yes, they did try to do something about it. So if you go to the LVO, you don't quite.
Look at Paul Bryan, by the way, in the chat.
Like, you used to have to go to the LVO if you even wanted to place. Now they've kind of capped it a little bit, but not as much, right? And with the UK having more like super majors, whatever the fuck that is, it's not the same, right? Come for the centre, stay for the spice. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like, again, Tom, I don't care about the rankings or the points, so it doesn't mean anything to me. But it does mean that the English no longer have to fly to America, nor do the Europeans, right? Because the Alliance Open are probably going to start having some pretty major European events, right? At significant scale. And
I'm going to learn Spanish to get my ITC points.
And do you know what might happen? They might have to start reporting on non-American events. They might have to learn the names of non-American players. That's right. They might have to do that, which is pretty crazy. Something else I need to talk about, Tom. This came up at the weekend, and I want to talk about it. Also, excellent rant, and I agree with literally everything Tom said. And I will take my top off, fight everyone in the street to back Tom's point. It's a hill. It's a hill I'll die on. Sexual. It's a hill. Like, I will burn everything down. Tom's point is spot on accurate. Yeah, like I've got his back 100%. Listen, Tom. Team 40k teams, yeah? Right. Okay. I got nothing against it. I'm pro it, in fact. I think more pro teams is cool. Yeah.
I was wondering where you were going after that first sentence, mate. I was about to pop a vein.
Right.
Okay.
Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm pro teams. I'm pro teams. Yeah. This is just the final bit for the show tonight because it means a lot to me. We need to talk about those outfits. Okay. Now, as I'm getting older, I'm getting a midriff. Yeah. Right. And if you would say to me, hey, Rob, what casual wear do you want to wear? It would be like, for a 40k event, it would not be, some polyester, non-sweatable thing covered in whatever, Maybe I'd go for a bowling shirt, Maybe I'd go for some sort of Sons of Anarchy style patch, like a waistcoat jacket, which is it's a bit like
the Danes have those.
Yeah, okay, all right, great shout, right? Like maybe I'd go for like denim cut off, maybe denim jackets with back patches, something cool. Bowling shirts is a good idea. Just a regular hoodie, all of that's good. Now, some people love the sports things, but I can't handle the sports thing, Tom. It just looks like a bunch of fucking mashed potatoes been put in a carrier bag, and I can't handle it. I can't see it at events. It triggers me so much. I need to know your opinion.
Couple of points on this. Firstly, this is just yet another salvo in our preparations to professionalize T-Sports. Okay, if you want to be T-Sports, we need the football kits. Secondly,
no, not the football. Why does it have to be the football kits? Cricket whites. We're fucking English, Tom. Let's do cricket whites.
It's too warm, Rob. It's too warm. I would rather go naked. It would be much better and much more comfortable.
Black tie. Okay. I love that idea. Black tie's great. A kilt.
We've just ruined the audio.
A kilt. Yeah. No. Look at that provocatory. If you aren't going to events wearing a kilt, bearing your team's cantar, and you aren't serious enough, there we go. Get in shape and polo shirts. Chemex. I agree.
Mate.
Robert.
All the WTC teams are just full of fit people like myself.
Yeah.
I am an Adonis as 40k goes. Okay. So I look fucking great. I want to show off my pecs and my nipples.
I don't want whatever.
So I
don't want whatever.
To intimidate you.
Whatever like weird sexual energy that you bring to 40k events. I don't want that to be a part of my experience. I need you to know that. Mate, I don't want that to be there. Tweed.
I saw what Darren did to Dan Bradshaw, mate. Okay. Shirts or no shirts, certain people in 40k just have a fucking sexual presence that just,
Okay, all right. Without getting fine. Everyone in the chat. Someone's asked a question, which I am 100% going to go and answer for them. Because
love Darren.
Because I want to make sure. If you're searching for our intro music for the Honest Wargamer, it's called "We Could Reach." It's a free MP3. Watch someone go and buy it now, so that all of our videos get copyright claimed. Genius move there.
Buy that guy.
Yeah. I hope you do, because then it just gives you an opportunity to get a new one. What are you going to do then, boys? New intro music.
I feel like someone's going to do that just to make you get it.
Yeah. Anyway, some people are cool with it, but I just think I don't like that someone started it and then it's moved on. A bit like the objective markers. I tell you what I enjoyed about our coverage, Tom. I didn't see an objective marker with a logo on one time. Not one.
I did try and remove them once to try and put Team Wales ones on when Ash was on the stream, but then I decided we didn't have the time.
And also, I would have fought you. So I'm glad that
you would have done that, but I just run away. I was very tired, and I have to stay.
What about overalls? That's a great suggestion. What about dungarees? Dungarees with your.
That's the most British thing I've ever heard.
Dungarees aren't British. Dungarees British.
Where dungarees?
Overalls are British. I reckon. So.
I think I just associate it with my childhood living in Northamptonshire next to a farm.
Yeah.
All I can think of is dungarees and the smell of
aprons is a great shout. What about why aren't we the sport with aprons?
Why does no one wear aprons to paint?
What?
Why does no one wear aprons?
Loads of people wear aprons to paint. They wear gloves, Tom. They wear gloves and aprons.
What, to paint Warhammer?
Yeah.
Fucking psychopath. All right.
I love how much you and me have learned things in this one show tonight. Wait, they do what? Right, okay. Anyway, I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Tom, any kind of final thoughts and any final questions about the weekend? Big shout out to the team covering the 40k stuff. I've done the Age of Sigmar shout out. And all of our guest commentators as well. Thanks to Mikey from Hellstorm Wargaming. Thanks to Innes Wilson from The Honest Wargamer. I'm fucking claiming him. I'm just going to fucking claim him right now. If we claim him, he can't just be his own, right? That's the plan.
Yeah. It's like how Glasshammer declared that I was part of the Glasshammer, like, as I picked up my trophy for best fucking painting. Still haven't sent me a fucking hoodie, though, have you, Manny?
So thank you to all of them. Thanks to Neil as well for shouting out. Nikos from the 40k show, and also Nick Lamborn, and also the Scrivs, who deserves all the love in the world.
Yeah, so special shout out to the Nicks, actually, because I know we've given a lot to Scrivs as well, because Scrivs definitely deserves it. But Nick wasn't particularly well early on, and he still powered for it. You'd never have known. He did fucking amazing stuff. Yeah. Okay? He was really good to cast with, really enjoyed it. And secondly, shout outs to Nick Lamborn.
So that was Nikos.
For not only stepping in last minute. Yeah. That was Nikos' first one. And the second one was Nick Lamborn for not only stepping in last minute and doing a tremendous job, but also for just when I was feeling like shit, he just stepped in and just did it. And I was like, you know what, mate? Fucking big ups. Like, I'd never expect anyone to have to step in, but he just did it. And he was an absolute, and big respects to Nick. He did a fantastic job.
He did. And thanks to a bunch of the organisers of the LGT as well for helping us out. Listen, 40k Warhammer tournaments are a growing thing, and they're also still a community thing that needs to be worked out by us as a group. And conversations like this, I hope, not change the Discord, like just shine a light on the Discord. Same way, like that YouTube comment. I saw someone said, why don't you delete all of the YouTube comments on that video? I'm leaving the fucker up. I'm letting people have their say, right? Like, it's the cold light of day on that video, and we'll see how it goes, right? Because I think that's quite interesting. And then we'll see how the other videos go when I put them up as well. Ultimately, that was me, Rob. I was making an NDA joke. Oh, Donaldinho, fuck, that's a good joke. We haven't even talked about NDAs. Can I talk about the NDA really quick? Just real quick, Tom.
Yeah,
I'll give you my 10 cents.
Mate, we've got so much spice today.
No, I'll just give you one.
Despite our weekend.
I know. We should do a whole NDA show. We'll talk about that a bit. I'll talk about this really quickly. If you didn't think that the people who got free stuff weren't sucking a bit of dick, you literally have lived the most sheltered life I've ever experienced. That's all I'm going to say. Like, that's how it works. Yeah? That's how it works. You just be like, this guy's a dick, but fucking he's going to give me the free book, so fucking let's... Do you know what I mean? Like, what world are you living in? Like, that's it. Yeah, like, that's end sentence. Yeah? End sentence. You got any thoughts on it, Tom?
No. Mate, I was busy the entire weekend, so I missed all the...
I don't care about any of the content creators and all their other jazz. But, like, it's definite...
Oh, not about that, like, but, there's some, like, shit going on Twitter and stuff.
Yeah, whatever.
I missed all of it because...
Whatever. Anyway, right, so I'm going to go now. Well, we're going to go, but I'm going to go because I would like to get some of these 40k games up so people can watch them back that we've been talking about, right, because that would be really fun. Tom, thanks for being a stalwart wizard and champion of the 40k community, and thank you to the Twitch
thanks for having me. I've had a great time tonight. It was really fun.
Yeah, me too. Thanks Twitch chat for being Honest Wargamers. I love you guys, allowed to have just a fucking great conversation about everything. Listen, sometimes none of us are going to agree on something and we're all going to have a different opinion. I'd love to hear them because it's good.
Yeah, and that's great.
That's great, right? Because that's what we're like. I don't think I'm right about everything. Yeah, and I would like to hear it. And we're allowed to have those robust conversations as a group because it's the only way we, as an Honest Wargamer community, will get better, which is all I really care about, right? Let's just get better. Which is super key.
Yeah.
Also, Tom, I've got to go away and paint 3 Archaeoraptors, so I'm very busy.
Mate, I've got to go away and actually paint a Drukhari army that's arriving tomorrow. So I'm not even joking. I bought one.
The worst people in the world, in the whole.
It wasn't Admech. Fuck you.
I'm lying. I'm lying, Tom. This is what I'm painting. Look what I'm painting. That's right. Squig Hog boys. Squig Hog.
Are those ones that are criminally undercosted?
They've made it in no competitive list. I'll have you know. It's either cars or planes. It's cars, planes, or truck boys. So don't you come at me, because of my squid.
That sounds like a great film. Actually, we should make that.
Huh?
We'll just like film it on a like £200 budget in the centre of Nottingham. Cars, squigs, and truck boys.
Or a remake. Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, I have painted scenery, you're right. Thanks, Twitch chat. Thanks for the whole Honest Wargamer is supported by people on Patreon. And if it wasn't for Patreon, we wouldn't actually be able to have these conversations. They've supported us for 4 years so that we can build the equipment that we took to things like the LGT. Or the Twitch chat. So if it wasn't for any of these people, we wouldn't be able to do this. And it means we don't have to sign NDAs ever. Yeah. We do nothing. We just have our shitty opinions and they're free for the world. So thank you to people on Patreon. Thank you to people on Twitch. Yeah.
And that's all we really want.
And that's all we want.
That's all we...
Yeah, right. So love you all. Oh, it's Duck Guts live. We should go raid him. Hold on. /
Duck Guts is live.
/ raid Duck Guts.
Raid Duck.
Hold on, we'll go raid Duck Guts. Thanks Twitch chat, thanks YouTube dudes. Big love to you all. Thanks for hanging out. Tom, love you loads. Big shout out to Nikos, miss you forever.
You too, bro.
Miss you forever, Nikos. Miss you forever. Shout out to Scribber. Bye.